Welcome to Are You Quizzing Me? I am Vineet Nair with my co-host Aditya Kashyap. This is a quizzing trivia podcast show. Join us as we dive deep into history, science, pop culture, and so much more. Let's get quizzing. And we're back for episode number 70 of Are You Quizzing Me? Your favorite trivia and podcast show. So before we start, there is the audio matter of the audience question. This is a question I ask at the beginning of every episode and which I answer at the end of today's episode. So today's question is as follows. A retired British Army officer, Captain Charles X being his last name, was managing the property of an absentee landlord in the late 19th century in Ireland. A rent dispute between him and the farmers tending to the land led the tenants to stop working the fields and to shun the Englishmen en masse. Local businesses followed suit, and soon Charles, who was rich in status but poor in access to useful resources like food, was eventually driven out of town. My question to you, my dear audience, is what was Charles's last name? I will answer this question at the end of today's episode. This 70th episode is a very special one because today we have a guest quizmaster, and it is none other than Aniruddha Sen Gupta, popularly called Annie for short. He's a journalist, he's been a journalist, communications designer, writer and editor. Apart from these, he's also currently the consulting editor with Comic Sense, a quarterly comics magazine. He's a true man of letters, master of puns, and one of my favorite quizmasters, and there has never been a single set of his which I've not enjoyed. Welcome, Annie, to Are You Quizzing Me? And thank you for taking time out to appear on our little podcast.
Thanks, Vineet. I'm delighted to be here. It's really nice of you guys to have me on. I'm looking forward to doing this.
Okay, so the format is the same that we have for all our guest quizmasters. Annie will obviously be asking the most of the questions, so Annie will be followed by myself, followed by Annie's question again, followed by Aditya's question, and so on and so forth. So let us start off today's episode with a question from our guest. Annie, go ahead.
So, okay, let's start with this one. So, interpretatio Germanica is a contemporary term used among linguists and sociologists for a cultural phenomenon that occurred around the 1st century AD when the ancient Romans and Germanic tribes came into close contact. What aspect of people's everyday lives in the present is considered to be an outcome of the interpretatio Germanica? So this is a phenomenon that occurred in the 1st century AD, but something in people's everyday lives now is considered to be an outcome of this phenomenon. It's a sociological phenomenon. So what is the aspect of people's everyday lives that's considered to be an outcome of the interpretatio Germanica?
Wow. Okay. Aditya, any ideas?
I'm going to take a quick water break. I'll be back in a few minutes. I just have to go drink water, I realized.
Okay.
Okay. No.
Very nice. Very nice.
I hope that's not because of the question.
I'm sure it is.
And your question instantly dried up my throat. That's what happened. Okay. No.
Vineet, do you want to take a shot at it? How do you want to go about this?
Okay, let's see. Interpretatio Germanica, you said it's a sociological phenomenon, and it's what happened when the Germanic tribes made contact with the Romans, right?
Correct.
The first thing that comes to mind is, considering the current climate, is it something related to immigration or movement of populations into a new country? Because a lot of that is happening in Europe. So is it something related to that?
No, it's a much more sort of widespread and something that all of us are also kind of part of. When I say cultural, obviously a lot of the cultural aspects of the time revolved around religious stuff. So It has something also to do with that. With religion, basically, and the religions of the Romans and the Germanic tribes.
So I'm thinking how basically through history this has happened where existing religious practices have been adopted into the new culture that comes up. So is it like holidays having been co-opted, like Christmas is a famous example. So things like that. Are we talking about something along the lines of festivals or holidays or something?
Yeah, that's a very good sort of line of thought, but that's not quite what it is here. But it's not too far from what we are talking about here. It's kind of to do with the Roman gods, the ancient Roman gods, and the German gods, and the Germans trying to figure out an overlap between the two. So, trying to superimpose, like you were talking about festivals and things. This is more about actually trying to do something, superimposing some of their gods onto something to do with the Roman gods. And there's a very specific word in the question, which is a big clue actually. So let me just repeat the question exactly. What aspect of people's everyday lives in the present is considered to be an outcome of the Interpretatio Germanica?
Okay, I think I have it.
A guess.
I got you. Even I have a guess. So I think this is the naming of the days of the week.
Days of the week.
That is absolutely correct. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, so basically in the Romans, they used to refer to the days of the week as, they use the names of different deities to refer to days of the week. So they had things like Dies Lunis, which was the day of the moon, Dies Martis, the day of Mars, Dies Jovis, the day of Jupiter. And when the Germanic people sort of came into contact with the Romans, they adopted that basic structure of how to, name days, but they replaced the Roman gods with gods that they were more familiar with. So, for example, the day of Mars, for example, Mars is the god of war, and the god of war in the Teutonic frame of things is Teu. So it became Teu's day.
Aha.
Dies Jovis, which is the day of Jupiter. Jupiter is a thunderbolt guy. So that was replaced by Thor's day, and so on and so forth. And that's how basically the English names that we have for those, for the days of the week, that's essentially how they came into being. The Angles and the Saxons who migrated to Great Britain were of Germanic origin, right?
Yeah.
So they took this system with them over there, and that's how these days came up. So many of the Latin languages, like French, Spanish, Italian, still retain the original Latin forms of the word. For example, Mardi for Tuesday, as in Mardi Gras, that comes from Mars. So, that's how the whole thing is. That's what this question was about. Yeah.
Cracker question. I really like that. The putting that clue in their everyday lives. Very nice.
Yeah. So I think maybe you can you keep your ears peeled a bit for such clues in future questions as well.
Yes.
All right. Who's next?
Okay, I'll go next. This is a question that's a little close to my heart. So this is a listicle question, which I traditionally hate, and is Aditya's favorite kind of question, but I'm going to appropriate it for today. So I'm going to give you a list of names. Okay, it's a non-exhaustive list. I'm going to give you a list of names, and I need you to connect them and tell me what the connect is. And I want a specific connect. Okay. So the names are Ariel, Umbriel, Belinda, Cordelia, Ophelia, Bianca, Cupid, Oberon, Sycorax, Caliban, Juliet, and Portia. This is a non-exhaustive list. The complete list would include 28 names. And I've given you roughly around 12. I'll repeat the names again. Ariel, Umbriel, Belinda, Cordelia, Ophelia, Bianca, Cupid, Oberon, Sycorax, Caliban, Juliet, and Portia. What's the connect?
Well, right off the bat, obviously, these are all names of characters in Shakespeare, but obviously it's not, what the connect is beyond that,
Okay, so let me just tell you right there. These are not all names from Shakespeare. Some of them are from Shakespeare, but not all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll give you a clue, as in Umbriel and Belinda do not appear in Shakespeare.
Okay. All right. Aditya, you considering going for this?
I thought it was Shakespeare and maybe a subset of it, like maybe people who die or something like that. Women who die in Shakespeare's works. But that would be, I guess, too out of left
Actually,
field.
most of them are like Ariel and Caliban and all. Many of them are fairies and stuff. But I have a second guess then. Are these like moons of Neptune?
See, this is why we should not have people like Annie on the show. They get the answers so quickly. Okay, it's not moons of Neptune, but those I'll give it to you. You have the basic funda. These are the moons of Uranus.
Uranus. Okay, all right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the funda behind this.
Yeah, please.
The current IAU, that's the International Astronomical Union, practice is to name the moons of Uranus after characters from Shakespeare's plays and characters from The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope.
Right.
Ariel appears in both Shakespeare and in The Rape of the Lock. Umbriel and Belinda only appear in Rape of the Lock. So Cordelia is from King Lear, Ophelia is from Hamlet, Bianca is from Taming of the Shrew, Cupid from Timon of Athens, Oberon from A Midsummer Night's Dream, Sycorax and Caliban from The Tempest, Juliet from obviously Romeo and Juliet, and Portia from The Merchant of Venice. So these are all moons of Uranus.
Right.
So if anybody's interested, there are naming conventions for every planet and its moons. So moons of Saturn, for example, are named after mythological giants.
Right.
Yeah, so there are more. I'm not going to disclose all of them because I may put a few for a question in the future.
All right. That was a pretty cool piece of trivia, Vineet. See, this is what I mean. I think everybody has a role in this podcast. I think Vineet comes up with great questions. Annie immediately cracks the answer. And I can make some Uranus jokes if you want. that could be my role.
I was wondering if you're allowed to do that about, especially when you talk about moons of Uranus, then there's
Moons of Uranus, yes.
good fodder for jokes there.
All right. Annie, your question next.
All right. I just realized that I also had a follow-up question to the previous one I asked, which interestingly enough still works in the context that it also connects up in some ways with Vineet's question. So my follow-up question is, and it's an easy, straightforward one, so I think we'll just answer this right away. But which is the only day in English which is named directly for a Roman god, perhaps retained because there was no obvious German equivalent?
Okay. Wednesday is Odin. Tuesday you mentioned is Tuas.
Then I think it's probably Saturday.
Oh yeah, Saturday. Yes. Saturday. Yeah,
Yes.
that's yeah. Why didn't I think of that? It's Saturday. Saturn.
That's correct. It is Saturday and Saturn. So nicely ties up with your previous question as well.
Nice,
right?
nice.
I mean, that's just a coincidence, but good. All right. So I'll ask my second actual question now. So I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to give you a list of people, a list of names. They're both real people, and a couple are fictional within this list. I want you to connect these people to something in literature. All right, I'll leave it at that right now. They're part of a relatively limited list. Like the names again would be maybe a list of 30 or 40. And these are 15, 16 of them, all right? So I'm just going to give you the names and then you tell me what you think connects them to something in literature. And I'm using literature in a very broad way. All right, here we go. Benito Mussolini, Mahatma Gandhi, Otto von Bismarck, Silvio Berlusconi, Jacques Chirac, Sigmund Freud, Julian Assange, Alain Prost, Eddie Merckx, The Beatles, Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier and Alec Guinness, Sean Connery, Laurel and Hardy, Thompson and Thompson.
Okay.
This is this is a partial list of a certain, of a list that could go on to about 30, 40 people, which is connected to something in literature. I need you to tell me what that is.
Off the top of my head, I thought of autobiographies, but then I'm not sure Thompson and Thompson would come under that category. Aditya, any idea?
So I was gonna say some award or something, but literature. So then that makes me think, have they been, but literature stretching it when I think of like something like Simpsons. I was going to say, have they all appeared in Simpsons as characters or something like that? But I'm assuming you don't mean Simpsons when you say literature.
No, but you're generally very much in the right ballpark. It's literature, like I said, at a very broad level, and it might help you to think of things that I am into.
Oh, I think I know this. Okay, I think I'll let Aditya take a crack at it because I am now around 70% sure. So let's see if Aditya can crack it. I'm not sure. I might be embarrassing myself on the podcast, but still.
We have enough instances of that captured, Vinny. It's, I guess, a loss in my own life that I don't know enough about Annie yet. I hope that'll change soon. But I'm trying to figure out what is Annie. I'm just trying to, because I can see you on my video right now. I'm just trying to look at Annie and what is the kind of stuff that Annie would be into. This is just me.
Well, it was mentioned in the bio that...
yeah, that's what got...
Vineet read out.
That's what got me to the answer.
Oh, there was something about comic books and comics. So, okay. So I'm going to try to think of comics. Comics which usually show characters, something like Family Circus, Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield. I mean, it could be any of them, I imagine.
I don't think most of those have many real characters appearing in them. They are usually fictional characters. So, Vineet, you want to tell us?
Okay, this is a guess. Again, I said 70%. Are these all people or caricatures who appeared in Asterix?
That is absolutely right. Exactly what it is. So, yeah, it's a longish list of real people or even fictional people who appeared as caricatures or cameos in Asterix comics. And these are some of them. Yeah, that's right. Well done, Vineet.
Aditya kind of lined it up for me when he said Simpsons and you said you're in the ballpark. And then the comic thing just hit me and I'm like, oh, okay, this has to be Asterix then.
Lovely. I'll take credit for that.
So now that you know it, Aditya, is this something that, are you familiar enough with Asterix comics? I mean, you read them?
I can't claim to be a diehard fan, but I do love the comics. It was from the phase where I was reading a lot of Tintin and Asterix at the same time. So yeah, it is definitely something I've read, and it does ring a vague bell. I probably have read a couple of comics with one or two of these characters in it, maybe.
Right. So I have a pretty simple follow-up question to these. So obviously, like I said, there are a lot of real people and who appear as caricatures. So who are these obvious omissions from the list above? I'm going to just give you small 2-word descriptions and you tell me who are the real people whom I've not listed, because if I had, it would have been very, very obvious right away.
Okay.
So first of all, a Roman emperor.
That'd be Julius Caesar.
Of course.
Caesar.
An Egyptian queen.
Cleopatra.
Yep. Now it gets a little tougher. A Gaulish chieftain.
Gaulish chieftain.
Is it the chief of the village as well in the Asterix comic?
No, that's Vital Statistics. But yeah, it appears actually, he appears in like the intro section of every comic.
Okay.
Oh.
I guess then should I tell you?
Yeah, obviously, please.
It's not,
go for it.
Yeah. So his name is Vercingetorix. He is the actual Gaulish. Yeah, you know that. Okay. He was the actual Gaulish chieftain who was defeated by Caesar. So in the comics, the wording is that he threw down his arms at Caesar's feet, and the panel shows him throwing down the arms and sort of it landing on Caesar's feet and him going yow. So that's Vercingetorix. And the last one, again, I guess it's quite easy. A French writer-artist pair.
French writer-artist pair. Aditya, any ideas? No, nothing's clicking for me immediately.
No idea at all. Nope, no idea.
No?
Pepe Le Pew or something like that?
No, it's self-referential. Goscinny and Uderzo. They also appear as caricatures in a couple of the comics.
Oh, nice.
No, I would not have been able to get that.
Okay, that's great.
All right. That lot. Yeah, next.
So, Aditya, let's move from comics to whatever it is that you're going to throw at us.
I guess another cornerstone of history, because I'm going to talk about the Union Club of the City of New York, which is a private social club in New York City that was founded in 1836.
Okay.
It is the second oldest city club in the US and the fifth oldest private club in the US as well. Right, so there are a bunch of other clubs that also came up around the same time or maybe a couple of years earlier. But it is pretty old and pretty historic and almost a landmark for New Yorkers. So, how do we remember this in today's world, or what kind of imprint has it left in the world, across the world, I would say?
Okay.
Something that happened there in the 19th century and was immortalized, I guess, in some way in 1889, and since then has become pretty much ubiquitous across the world.
Annie, please go ahead. I don't have anything clear in my head right now.
Okay. I have one guess based on, just from these facts, something that comes to mind. Is this the tuxedo?
No, that is, we actually have done this in a previous episode where we talked about the club after which tuxedo is named. But yeah, that's a great guess because it is pretty similar.
Okay.
It isn't in the world of fashion, if that helps. So this is into the world of fashion. Let me give you a little bit more of a clue because right now it's a vague question. The earliest known reference to X that we are trying to identify was in an article, like I mentioned, that appeared in The Evening World on November 18th, 1889, in which they mentioned, "Have you tried X yet?"
Is this a cocktail?
Ooh, you are close.
That's exactly
you are
what
close.
I was also thinking.
It's not a cocktail. It's not a drink, but you are close.
Okay. Because I know the Manhattan was from the Manhattan Club, so I was thinking maybe this was an old-fashioned or something like that. But you said it's not a cocktail.
Just like Annie, I would say the answer is somewhere in the question itself.
Then please repeat the question.
Okay. The Union Club of the City of New York is a private social club in New York City that was founded in 1836. How has it left a lasting imprint in today's world?
All right. So obviously the word imprint is the
No. Not imprint. Whatever. You can say any other word there. That part of the sentence was useless.
Okay. So then what does that leave us with? Vinit?
And your follow-up clue was regarding the evening news, mentioning it in, 1899?
Yes. 1889.
1889,
November 18th. Saying, "Have you tried X yet?"
Have you tried X yet?
So is it, okay, I'm just talking more to Vinit right now than you, Aditya. So do you think it would be an activity of some kind?
Yeah, I was thinking it might be some kind of food or
Food and drink made sense.
You're closer with food. Okay.
Okay. I think I have this one. Is this a club sandwich?
It is one of the possible or the most commonly accepted origins of a club sandwich. Yes.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Oh, that's lovely. Good question, Aditya. Beautiful. And well cracked.
So
nice.
The article mentioned, "Have you tried a Union Club sandwich yet?"
Oh,
2 toasted pieces of graham bread with a layer of turkey or chicken and ham between them, served warm. So it was a recipe as well. And that's the most commonly accepted origin of a club sandwich, or also called a clubhouse sandwich, which is a very common sandwich that you'll see across menus in a lot of places, including in India. Yeah.
True. Excellent. Very nice.
Nice question, Aditya. Nice question. Annie, again, the ball passes to you.
Right. Okay. A couple of my questions are a little long, so just bear with me. I'll re-emphasize the critical parts after I read out the question. So, at the beginning of X's early 21st century book, Y, an author's note, which in keeping with the tone of the rest of the book could be a fake memory, tells us that X went to India with the intention of writing a novel set in Portugal. Then he met the Indian who told him the tale of Y, and Portugal was forgotten. The High Mountains of Portugal, X's 2016 novel, wove 3 tales of an allegorical nature, the second of which is the story mentioned in the book Y many years earlier. So who is the author X and what book is Y? So early 21st century, X wrote Y, and in Y there's an author's note which says that he went to India with the intention of writing a novel set in Portugal. In his 2016 novel, The High Mountains of Portugal, that story actually is stored. And that's like, as you can see, early 21st century to 2016, like maybe 15 years later. So I want to know who is the author X and what book is Y.
Okay, I think I know this one.
Oh, wow.
No, I have a decent guess. But before I kind of embarrass myself, if I said the word Pondicherry, would that be connected to this?
Yes. Yes, it would.
Okay, so yeah.
So, are you going to try?
I'll try, because Vinny is just teasing me now. Pondicherry, an author who wanted to write about Portugal, but instead wrote about, I'm guessing, did you say he wrote about India, or because he said Pondicherry?
He said he met an Indian who told him a certain tale, and as a result, he dumped the idea of writing about Portugal and wrote that story instead.
Oh, okay. I was initially thinking Siddhartha, but Pondicherry doesn't feature in that, as far as I know. I haven't read it.
Yeah, and this book is early 21st century.
Oh, right.
So,
you mentioned early 21st century.
Is a lot earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Indian, and you also said it has something to do with false memories. Oh, very interesting.
Maybe Unreliable Narrator would be?
Yeah. That's.
I was thinking
correct.
along the lines of Unreliable Narrator itself. Oh.
Should I give some clues for Aditya?
Yeah, a clue would help, yes.
All right. In fact, got like 5 clues lined up, so I can. One of them is, since Vineet has already opened that can of worms, I'll give that one first. So the book is about a sea journey that starts from Pondicherry and ends in Mexico.
Oh,
Does
okay.
that ring any bells?
Life of Pi. That makes
That
sense.
is correct. Yes.
Okay. Unreliable Narrator.
Yeah.
Right.
All that, yeah. So the clues I had were that the main protagonist of the book is named for a swimming pool in Paris. That the book won the Booker Prize in 2001. That it featured a character named Richard Parker. And that a movie was made with Gautam Belur, Ayush Tandon, Suraj Sharma and Irfan playing the protagonist, the eponymous protagonist at different ages. All right. That's what it was. Life of Pi by Jan Martel is the full answer for that. Yeah.
If Aditya wasn't able to crack it with that clue, I was about to give a clue that was going to be just one word: thalassophobia.
Okay.
That's an in-joke, because we've discussed on the podcast before how many movies don't give us that kind of, the vastness of the sea or the ocean is not something that you get in movies. But in The Life of Pi, the movie The Life of Pi, there is one particular sequence when the ship is sinking. There is this amazing shot which kind of shows us the vastness of the sea, and that really kind of creeps me out. So we've discussed that before. So that was going to be my clue to Aditya if he didn't get this one.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
So great. I am up next, and I have a question which is again a slightly longer question. So you'll have this is a long story, but the story kind of sets up the question itself. So audience and my fellow quiz members, please bear with me.
Okay.
The Nava Vihara were 2 Buddhist monasteries close to the ancient city of Balkh in northern Afghanistan. The hereditary administrators of these monasteries became the influential Barmakid family after converting to Islam. So we're talking about the Barmakid family. They were influential in the formation of the Abbasid dynasty, which was a caliphate which stretched from Sindh in the east to parts of North Africa and even Spain at one point. The legacy of this family stretches even to the modern day. They are credited as being the link between Indian science and the rest of the world. So Indian numerals, chess, Indian medicine, everything came to the Arabs through the Barmakid's family. They have a lot of things which are credited to them apart from this, including the use of lamps in mosques during Ramadan. Even fashion. The long neck which Barmakids possessed is said to have been responsible for the introduction of the custom of wearing high collars. Today, the average person would be very hard pressed to remember or name any of the Barmakids except maybe one, X. Now, X acquired great fame for eloquence, literary activity, and calligraphy, and chiefly because of him, Arab historians regard the Barmakids as the founders of the class designated as people of the pen, or al-kalam. He had a reputation as a patron of the sciences and did much to introduce Indian science into Baghdad. He was credited with convincing the Caliph to open a paper mill in Baghdad, the secret of paper making having been obtained from Chinese prisoners. He met a bitter end when he was executed under the order of Harun al-Rashid. Fictionalized versions of X have appeared over the centuries, both as a hero or as a villain, as a detective, as an adventurer, and as an evil schemer. So I want you to tell me, I don't need the full name, just his first name will do, who this singular Barmakid person is, whose name might be recognized by the average person today.
Okay. I have one guess. It doesn't fit too well, but I have a guess.
Okay.
Same.
Aditya, anything?
I have a very bad guess. I was going to say Sinbad.
No, it's not Sinbad.
Okay.
Is it by any chance Abu Hamza?
No, it's not Abu Hamza.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll need more from you, Vineet.
Okay, so my first clue would be children of the 90s. You definitely know this.
We are not children of the 90s.
No, that's the clue.
So some TV show, I guess, or movie from around that time. Aflatun.
No, that's not it.
Aditya, say something.
I was, again, this isn't the right time frame at all, but certainly I went to Kabuliwala, but again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No. The family was originally from Afghanistan. They converted to Islam, and then they were part of the, revolution that replaced the Umayyad Caliphate with the Abbasid Caliphate. And then they served in major positions throughout that. But their story is pointed out as one of the things where pride goeth before a fall. So Harun al-Rashid was very close friends with X, and he was his right-hand man, his vizier, and he met a bitter end when he was executed under the order of Harun al-Rashid. And one clue I can give you apart from this is X appears in multiple places in the Arabian Nights.
Okay. Multiple places in the Arabian Nights.
So there is one story in the Arabian Nights, I think it's called The Three Apples, in which X is part of a mystery. He's a detective in that. There's another story, which is one of the first kind of examples of reverse causation, where X and Harun al-Rashid both appear, where he's an adventurer. And then what most people today would know him was because of something that came out in the 90s. And that same character has also recently been seen on screen, maybe in the past 3-4 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Is it by any chance Alif Lela?
Nope.
Oh man, I thought I'd tracked that.
Okay, I'd put a few clues in this. The Barmakids were famous for introducing high collars. Right. I've told you that he was the vizier of Harun al-Rashid, that he has been fictionalized, has appeared as a hero, as a villain, as a detective, as an adventurer, and even as an evil schemer. And that this person or this character appeared in the 90s and recently as well. These are the clues. And this is probably the only Barmakid person whom people would mean. They would know without knowing that he was part of the Barmakid dynasty.
Right. Yeah, I think you've given us a lot of information, but nothing is clicking in my head. Not Nasruddin, I guess.
No, not Hujja.
No. Okay, I can't think of who it could be.
Okay, one last clue. Last clue. Okay. The last clue I'm going to give you is Iago.
Iago.
So you mean Aladdin?
Okay. So who in Aladdin?
Jafar.
Yes,
No.
it is Jafar.
Jafar.
Jafar. Oh, Jafar.
Jafar.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jafar
Oh,
al-Yahya
interesting.
was a real life person. He was the vizier of his father was the vizier before him. He was the vizier for Harun al-Rashid, and
Okay.
they were they were part of the Barmakid dynasty. And the depictions of Harun al-Rashid and Jafar appear in multiple places in the Arabian Nights. That's a fantastic story about where Harun al-Rashid goes to the library, reads a book which causes him to weep and become emotional, and he sends Jafar away. Jafar is disappointed, but then he goes to Arabia, has a lot of adventures, in which he writes about those adventures, and then he comes back, and then he finds the book that Harun al-Rashid had read, and it was a book of his own adventures. So it was a kind of reverse causation kind of thing. Him reading the book caused him to have those adventures, which caused those books to be written.
Wow, freaky.
Yeah.
That's very Robert Heinlein.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I found this fascinating. I mean, like, I'm completely fascinated by the Abbasid dynasty and the Barmakids themselves. Indian numerals were brought to Arabia, to the Abbasid dynasty by the Barmakids. And there they were refined, and they were, because they had influence in Spain and in North Africa, and they had trade with Europe. Those numbers went to Europe, and they came to be known as Arabic numerals.
Right.
Chess,
Right. Yeah.
chess was invented in India. It went through, again, the same Barmakid family, because they were originally Buddhist they were Buddhists before converting to Islam. So they had a lot of connection with the Sanskrit crowd in India. And those connections stayed. So Indian medicine, Indian numerals, chess, a lot of things went from India to the Arab world, where it kind of transformed and developed, and then went throughout the world through this one family.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
And their story is just fantastic. I would recommend anybody who's interested to just go read about the Abbasid dynasty. It reads like the Game of Thrones, basically, some of it. The scheming and the killing and all that.
Quite tricky. What did you say this person's name was?
Jafar
what?
al-Yahya.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That was
Very
good.
cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nice learning. Yeah.
Okay. So, Adi, your question next.
All right. So, I don't know if this might be an easy one. What word that might have had exciting connotations in our youth, mine at least? My youth was obviously at a different time than yours. But what word that might have had exciting connotations in my youth comes from a 3-word French phrase meaning of good family or nature. Like of good family or of good nature. So what word comes from that 3-word French phrase which means of good family or of good nature?
Okay, so we are talking about a word that came from a phrase.
Yeah. The phrase is actually almost exactly the word.
Oh.
Just one letter at the end is dropped from the French phrase to get it when it came into English. And it sort of joined up into one word.
Okay. I am completely lost. Aditya, do you have any idea?
No, I'm not at all. Word from a phrase. Can't even.
Yeah.
A French phrase.
French phrase. Okay, even if I go with a quick translation, so good will be a bon or buen. Buen is in Spanish, but bon.
Buen is Spanish. It'll be bon.
Bon vita.
That's good life.
Yeah, that's true. No,
Close.
that's not what it is. Yeah.
Close. Good nature, good family. Yeah, I don't know the French word for nature. So no, you'll need to give us a clue, Annie.
All right. So when the word was borrowed into English in the 13th century, it basically meant courteous. And today it has a lot more of a meaning. I mean, it has more nuances to it, like charm and polish and worldliness. And it's used mostly of men as a description for men.
Debonair?
Debonair is correct. Well done.
Oh, debonair. Debonair makes so much sense.
It's from de as in, of, de bon air. So that basically meant of good nature. The bon air, and air in this case has an E at the end, but it's exactly the same word, which became then, same spelling, which became debonair after that. Yeah.
Nice.
That's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah. So you know what I was talking about in terms of exciting connotations in our youth. One of the clues I was going to give you is it's the answer to a riddle about what one might call a stylish Malayali like Vineet. You know that joke, right?
I don't know this joke. Please expound upon
Dude.
it.
So what would you call a stylish Malayali like Vineet?
Oh, debonair. Oh, God. Oh, God.
That is the one.
The resident punner of this podcast has been stumped by that.
Outpunned. You've been
I love it.
outpunned today.
Yeah, I have been outpunned.
All right.
Okay.
Back to Vinny. No, it's Aditya's now,
Yeah.
no? Yeah.
Aditya, take the baton.
After being outpunned, I need to gain some credibility back. So let me try with this question that hopefully tickles both of your tastes. I know it might for Vineet. I'm hoping it would for Annie as well. So I'm going to talk about a certain 20th century theory. And I'm going to describe it in slightly vague terms. And as you go forward, I can give you more clues. So the first would be a heavenly figure. Then there is an undertaker. Then there is a gravedigger. And then there is the corpse. What am I referring to?
This is a theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say it's a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Can you repeat those things again once, please?
Yeah. A heavenly figure, followed by the undertaker, followed by the gravedigger, and finally the corpse.
Theory. Doesn't ring any bells at all. Gravedigger, undertaker, corpse, and that sequence. No, undertaker, gravedigger, which was the sequence, yeah. Anyway. Nothing. I can't think of anything.
Neither can I. For some reason, my mind's going to wrestling. Undertaker,
Yeah,
Gravedigger.
exactly. Because yeah.
Actually, let me clarify and let me correct myself a little bit.
Okay.
The order is actually heavenly figure, followed by the undertaker, followed by the corpse, and then the gravedigger.
Which would logically be the right sequence anyway.
Yeah. I realized I messed that up.
Okay.
It's a conspiracy
All right,
theory.
can you tell us, like in what, like a broad subject area for the conspiracy theory, like in what kind of stuff?
Let's say it is a conspiracy theory to do with pop culture.
And you said this is what time period? Did you mention the time period?
20th century.
20th century. So going by the names that you've given, corpse, undertaker, gravedigger, whatnot, this would have to be with regards to somebody's death. So, and you said conspiracy theory. So, are you telling me Elvis is alive?
Oh, no. I got it. All right. Shall I go?
Yeah. Please.
Go for it.
The Abbey Road. The Paul is dead thing, and the sequence of these guys on Abbey Road.
Oh.
On the Abbey Road.
Exactly. That is the conspiracy theory. Paul is dead.
I was so close.
Yeah,
you were very close. The conspiracy theory basically goes that Abbey Road is symbolic of the fact that Paul had died by this time, and they had replaced him. Beatles had replaced him with somebody who looked just like him, a doppelganger. And they use the outfits that those people are wearing in the iconic cover picture of Abbey Road, the album, to sort of justify their conspiracy theory. So right in the front, there is dressed in all white. We have Lennon. So he's supposed to be the heavenly figure. Then there is Ringo dressed in black, who is supposed to symbolize the undertaker. After which, Paul McCartney himself, who is, by the way, walking bare feet.
Barefoot.
And, and is out of step with the rest of them. He's the only one out of step in the four of them, and hence is the corpse. And at the very end is George Harrison, who's dressed in denim, and hence represents the gravedigger. So it was the heavenly figure, the undertaker, the corpse, and the gravedigger, which is how people justify the fact that Paul McCartney is dead.
Yeah. Fun.
No,
that was nice.
That was I. To be honest, I wouldn't have. I was going with Elvis because the moment I was thinking of dead person and conspiracy theory, Elvis is the first thing that comes to mind in pop culture.
Right.
But yeah, great.
Definitely.
I did not know this piece of trivia. I knew about the Paul is dead thing, but I didn't know there was a complete so intricate theory about the photograph and everything. Oh, that's a great one.
I mean, there are so many, this whole, I mean, the way these fans, who especially the conspiracy theory believing fans of various things are, the number of symbols that they see in everything. I mean, this Paul is dead, and there's so many, like this reference in this song means such and such, and it's just crazy. I mean, these people, I don't know, the kind of time they have to work out all this stuff is crazy.
So true. Okay. I think that's all the time we have now for this episode. Let's start winding up. Before we go to anything further, let me just ask the audience question and see if you guys can answer that. The audience question for today was: a retired British Army officer, Captain Charles X being his last name, was managing the property of an absentee landlord in the late 19th century in Ireland. A rent dispute between him and the farmers tending to the land led the tenants to stop working the fields and to shun the Englishmen en masse. Local businesses followed suit, and soon Charles, rich in status but poor in access to useful resources like food, was driven out of town. So what does X stand for? Basically, I'm asking you, what was Captain Charles's last name? So I think maybe our audience, a couple of them have figured it out, but Aditya and Annie, do you have any idea what Charles's last name was?
Yeah, I do. Okay,
so then Aditya, you want to guess?
I think I've heard of this. This is the etymological origin for, I want to say boycott?
Annie, is that your answer as well?
Yep.
Yes, it is boycott. It was Charles Boycott. And that's where we get the term boycott. So that was the audience question for this week. Congrats to both Annie and Aditya for cracking that one. As usual, before we wind up, there is the matter of our pop culture recommendation. So our guest can go first. Annie, is there any pop culture recommendation that you want to give our audience?
I don't know if this qualifies as pop culture specifically, but generally culture. So I'm into two things.
Multiple things.
Yeah, two out of those things are I love science fiction and I love detective stories. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. So as far as science fiction is concerned, I mean, I've read many different things, but one OTT show which I really enjoyed in the past few years is The Expanse. It's a 5-season show with and it has, it's got a very wide, expanse in terms of the way it covers politics and future dynamics and science stuff and crime and lots of things, So I really enjoyed that one show and I would strongly recommend it to anyone who enjoys science fiction. Have either of you seen it?
I have watched the first season. I haven't had time to explore the rest of it, but you're right. It's a great show.
Yeah. It's very well made, yeah. And very well written also. So yeah, it's a pleasure to watch actually. Aditya, get on it.
I shall ASAP.
All right. The second thing I want to say is in terms of, I said I like detective fiction. And so there's this genre which I've discovered in recent times, like maybe a year or 2 years, called Honkaku. It's essentially a Japanese detective fiction genre, which is largely locked room mysteries. And I really enjoy this subgenre of locked room mysteries where a corpse is found in a locked room and how did it sort of get killed, and the person, whoever killed, the killer, how did the killer get out of that place? All those kind of questions arise. So I really enjoy this Honkaku. one reason I kind of have got into it is that there is an imprint called Pushkin Vertigo, which has been publishing translations of some of these iconic Japanese honkaku in recent years. And apart from the fact that they were interesting to read, they've got really beautifully minimalist Japanese design covers, which are really beautiful to see. So while I read a lot on my Kindle, I like to order books which have that kind of thing. So I've been getting a lot of those books and reading them. So that's my second recommendation. Read honkaku.
Nice.
Very cool.
That was a great recommendation. I am definitely going to check out honkaku. The thing is, I actually am also a big fan of locked room mysteries. So this is just like a follow-up or add-on to what Annie said. There is an author by the name of John Dixon Carr. Is he from the mid-20th century? He, I think, is one of the best when it comes to crafting some of these mysteries. The Hollow Man, I think this is Judas Window. These are like some of the things, if you're interested to start reading about locked room mysteries, they also make a lot of sense. But for those who are not so much into books and would prefer a visual medium, there is a show that I absolutely love. It's a little difficult to watch if you're in India, but if you can get your hands on it, or if you have a VPN, you can watch it. It's available on BBC. The show is called Jonathan Creek, and it stars Alan Davies. For those who are quizzers, Alan Davies is the longest running panelist on QI, one of my favorite quizzing and trivia shows. So he plays a magician's, not assistant, he makes or creates illusions for magicians. And he lives in a windmill. And all the episodes are some form of locked room mystery or impossible mystery, which only Jonathan Creek can solve. So that's a show that I would also recommend for those who love locked room mysteries. And to add to Annie's thing, John Dixon Carr, one of my favorite locked room writers. But my actual recommendation, or what I was planning to recommend this week, is a book called Predictably Irrational. So this is a book by Dan Ariely. And it's basically for business people. I mean, like, it was written for business people, for marketers and, that kind of crowd, the financial crowd. But I find it quite useful for us to read it as well, the layman to read it as well, because it kind of tells us how our decisions are formed, what kind of forces shape our decisions, right? So why sometimes we don't think twice about spending money on one thing, but then we find it very difficult to spend some money on something else. So that kind of thing, the kind of forces that shape our decisions are discussed quite in detail in Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. So those are my recommendations for this week. Aditya, what's yours?
Okay, so I recently watched this movie again, and I thought it is worth recommending because it really holds up. And this is the 2010 film Udaan. So if you haven't seen Udaan, I would say this is a great film worth checking out. It was, I believe, the debut for the lead actor, and Vikram Aditya Motwani directed it. There's Ronit Roy in it as well. So just an all-round bunch of talented people made this film, and it is one of my favorite films, which I rewatched, and I thought people should definitely check out. Another film that also I rewatched recently, so I've been watching some old films that I perhaps watched many years ago, and I wanted to see if they hold up. And this one also does. It's the film Anand. This is the 1971 film, which stars Rajesh Khanna and Amitabh Bachchan, both pretty much giving their best and having crackling chemistry together. And a film definitely worth your time. So I would recommend these two Hindi films, Udaan and Anand, both of which, if you haven't seen before, definitely check them out. If you have seen before, watch them again. They hold up, and how so?
Babu Moshai, you're right. I'll always remember that film for them. So I think it was Amitabh Bachchan's character looking at an X-ray and saying lymphosarcoma of the intestine, which I found hilarious. But little in medical joke for people who know what I'm talking about. But you're right, it's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie. That's all for this episode. But fear not, Annie will be back for one more episode number 71 as well. So stay tuned for that next week. Thank you all for listening in. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. take 5 seconds after my spiel to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. It helps us reach a wider audience, allows more people to discover and enjoy the show. We'd also love to hear from you. Feedback, suggestions, even trivia. If there are any questions or pieces of trivia that you want asked on the show, you can send us an email at areyouquizzingme@gmail.com with the name of the quizmaster in the subject line. You can reach us on Instagram at areyouquizzingme. We also have a community, a subreddit on Reddit, which is r/areyouquizzingme. So you can go there and post as well. We appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more episodes with you in the future. Annie, Aditya and I will be back next week. So thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day.
See you guys next week.
Thank you.